Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we're going to take a look at a PNSO figure. Now this isn't a brand new PNSO figure, however it is a newer version of the Amargasaurus. You can see this is the 2021 new painting version. So this one came out, I think, late last year, potentially. I actually, for some reason, feel like it came out earlier this year, but it does say 2021 new painting there on the box. Regardless, this is one that I kind of waited on. I really wanted to get a hold of it because I do love the Amargasaurus from PNSO, but I just waited a little bit on this one, and now finally got my hands on it here, and I'm really excited to actually take a look at it. This one is the same sculpt that was released prior, but we have an entirely different paint scheme for it, which is something that PNSO does from time to time. Not super often, but I do enjoy when they do actually give us repaints, especially for an Amargasaurus, because I can never have enough Amargasaurus. But you can see as far as the box art goes, it's very straightforward, as we just have an image of the figure, and then again 2021 new painting, PNSO up there. Same deal here for the underside, and also again giving us the name of the dinosaur and that it is in 1/35th scale. And then here on the back, pretty much the same thing, and again we have kind of like a silhouette of the Amargasaurus. So let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So straight away, we've got ourselves a nice little booklet, as we always do when it comes to PNSO. Really nice image there of the Amargasaurus. As soon as we head into the booklet, this one looks like it potentially is in strictly Chinese. Nowadays, they release a lot of this stuff in, English as well, but this one looks like maybe not. Oh, no, see, I am wrong, actually. It is in English back here, so I just needed to get to that point, apparently, but you can see some beautiful artwork and stuff throughout, like really, really nice artwork of the Amargasaurus. Specifically, that is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I actually really quite like that color scheme. They probably should have gave us that color scheme as well. But regardless, again, it's always fun to have the booklets and stuff like this to get with your PNSO release. And then you've got yourself a base, and that's something we don't get too often nowadays from PNSO, which I do really quite like. And of course, the Amargasaurus itself, and it really does look quite beautiful. Like, I actually quite love the paint scheme of this one. First of all, the area I think I really like is that really nice kind of orangish tone running down the back. That just looks beautiful. And PNSO is always very good at coming up with really nice naturalistic paint schemes. Where are the footprints? There they are. I'm trying to find the footprints too. Nope, that actually was not the spot, I don't think. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I found it. So there's the spot to put it on the base. But PNSO is always very good at coming up with really nice naturalistic paint schemes, and this one looks natural, but the figure as a whole does have a nice flashy appearance to it, especially with those nice kind of red-orange tones up here in that blue striping. Looks really nice. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this so we can see what's different on this one compared to the previous release. So sculpt-wise, this figure absolutely is the same one that we had prior. There's no difference in the sculpt at all, which means we don't need to really go over the sculpt as we have done that in the past on the initial Amargasaurus review. But what we do need to take a look at is anything that's different on this one compared to the original one, and that of course is the paint scheme. So you can see that the head sculpt has some really nice greenish tones. You can see like some darker greens and some lighter greens throughout. You can also see the teeth are nicely painted, actually really quite nicely for how small they are. If my camera would stay focused on it, that would be very nice and kind of my camera. But the eyes are also painted quite beautifully. I like that they have kind of like a pinkish tone there around the eye, and then a really nice black coloration for the eye. As we start to lead back here into the neck, we continue to have those nice green tones as we move down. I can even kind of make out some variations of browns in there as well, which looks really quite nice. But as you lead up here toward the back and those classic Amargasaurus spines, you can see that we have this nice kind of like a red-orange coloration moving down, and you also have some blue stripes that continue to run down the course of that area, as well as a blue that kind of outlines the top. And then when you actually get up to those spines, you can see that they have a nice brownish tone, but they transition incredibly naturally to a white there for the tips, so they highlight that area very nicely. You have a nice brownish tone, though, that runs down the center of the spinal column of your Amargasaurus. As you move along, though, you can see a transition. As we reach the base of the neck, we transition to that kind of orangish brown there for the back. The the spines themselves continue to have the same style of paintwork with the brown that transitions to kind of like a white tip. Some of them I can see don't have the white tips, like right here in the mid-back area. I definitely can notice that there are a few missing that white tip, but it still looks really nice, and all of that paint is very smooth and nice and naturally applied. But as you move along, again, you have that nice orangish brown, but you also have some darker stripes that run along the back of the Amargasaurus. And then again, we have the nice greenish tones, but as you move down here, you can see a really nice variation of brown, as well as a light kind of like an off-white or a khaki for the stomach region, and all of those transitions are super nicely applied, really smooth transitions. You can see that they've beautifully dry brushed all of the detail out here on the underside. Even the underside of the neck, you can see some of that same variation of brown running along the underside of the neck, and then the actual throat itself has that lighter tone like we see in the stomach region. You can also see that as we move down, we do darken in the legs. As you run down, you have that nice, actually it looks like there's like two variations potentially of lighter greens, but as you transition down to the foot, you can see it darkens in the greenish coloration. I am surprised to see there are no actual painted nails on the figure, like they are just the coloration of the foot, which it actually doesn't look bad that way. It's just kind of surprising, but they did do a good job of giving it a coloration where the nails don't look out of place without paint application on them. As you continue to move down the course of the figure, again, you see the nice browns and greens and everything, kind of like a brownish wash potentially seems to be added in certain spots. Again, the darker greens for the feet, but you also start to have a lighter tone picking up, so we continue to have that kind of orangish brown, almost looking more like a yellowish brown as we lead back here, but you start to get this lighter tone that continues to run out the course of the tail. The entire tail pretty much transitions to that lighter tone, but we have a nice green striping, very nice and naturally applied as you lead out the length of that beautifully curved tail, and you do see the orangish tones picking up here again at the tip of the tail. And there's also some variations of brown you can see here hiding back behind the thigh, and even brown for the undersides of the feet, which I do quite like, because actually the dinosaur is walking in a nice kind of almost like a muddy looking area, so the feet actually having the brown makes it look like the feet are kind of muddy, and it really replicates the terrain that it's currently walking on, which that's really, really smart on the part of PNSO, almost like a little Easter egg that they have there that you may not even notice. But you can again see the paintwork looks really good on this side, really nice, precise, pretty much exactly as it did on the initial side. Definitely a very nice looking color scheme that they've chosen for the Amargasaurus for version 2 of the Amargasaurus, but again, all of the paintwork looks really good over here, just like it did on the initial side. Really, really nice looking Amargasaurus. And then we also have the base. I think the base is exactly the same as the previous version as well when it comes to the sculpt, and the paintwork has lots of different variations of color to it. You've got some lighter tones here, different darker variations of browns throughout. You can also see that the rocks are painted very, very nicely, and they're kind of like given a brown, but they're also dry brushed over with a gray, so it highlights the detail very realistically. You can see like some deceased trees and stuff are also painted really nicely. There's some vegetation showing up here and there. You've even got some grays again for the rock formations on the side. Very nice, very high quality base, really quite beautiful to go with our Amargasaurus and kind of, you know, again, take you straight to a scene with our Amargasaurus just kind of walking along. You can also see the footprints for the Amargasaurus. Nothing really going on for the underside, but definitely a really nicely sculpted, of course, and really nicely painted base to go with a beautiful Amargasaurus. Now, even though we have reviewed the figure in the past, we'll still get a measurement for you just in case you aren't familiar with it. You're looking at about 13 inches or around 33 centimeters in length, and then for a height to the top of the spine is about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our PNSO Amargasaurus, and you can definitely see that it pretty much sits right at the size range you would expect, honestly, for an Amargasaurus. I would say it's right there around a, like, medium-sized sauropod figure. But for the comparison that I think I'm most interested in, and honestly the only other comparison I feel like we really need to do for this figure, we've got ourselves the original Amargasaurus released by PNSO next to the newest version. So I don't know which one I would prefer, honestly. I feel like I would say the first version is probably still the superior version, but I feel like the actual paint application is improved on the newer one compared to the older one. Outside of the fact that the older one did have painted nails, the newer one does not, but the paint on the nails of the older one was really bright, so it's a little bit kind of off-putting just because it's so bright and really, really stands out. But again, they're two really nice looking Amargasaurus figures, and I like that they're both greenish tones because they look like they could potentially be like part of the same group maybe, and again, the greenish tones kind of allow them to look similar while at the same time looking quite a bit different. But it is definitely cool to again see both of the different Amargasaurus here from PNSO, and again, I think my favorite still is the original one, but the newer one is really quite nice. So this version 2 of the PNSO Amargasaurus is definitely another really quite nicely done figure. The sculpt, of course, is gorgeous. It was beautiful the first time around, still beautiful now. Definitely a big fan of the sculpt of the Amargasaurus, and I love seeing PNSO sauropods. We have had quite a few so far, and I'll always welcome more because I think they do a great job on their sauropods, and again, this Amargasaurus is really quite nicely done. Whether it's the overall appearance or the fine detail, it is fantastic. But the paint job, again, is the only thing that's really different this time around, and I think the paint job looks really quite nice, really quite natural. All of the paint application is beautifully applied, and the paint scheme that they've chosen for it also looks really quite nice and natural. So they have definitely done a good job on the paint scheme of the figure. Again, I think the original one might have been a little bit more appealing as far as the actual paint scheme, but this one still looks really good as a whole and really quite nice and natural. And you also, of course, have a really nice base to go with your Amargasaurus, which is something that a lot of the newer PNSO figures don't have. So it is always fun to kind of go back to the older ones that did include bases, because I love bases with my figures, and it looks really nice on the base. And I love bases specifically because it kind of transports me right there to the scene where the dinosaur was alive, you know, looking at it walking in the terrain where it would have roamed. So having a base is always a huge plus, especially one that's so nicely sculpted and nicely painted. So if you are interested in this Amargasaurus, my recommendation is to grab this from Lana Time Shop, because that's actually where I purchased mine. Lana Time Shop has quickly become one of my favorite dinosaur retailers on the internet. They're super nice, super polite, really helpful consistently every time you have to contact them about anything, and they always have a lot of really cool products. So I will include links in the description to not only Lana Time Shop actually, but also, of course, the listing for this Amargasaurus, but also their social media accounts, because it's really fun to actually follow them to see all of the stuff that they're putting up, because they put all kinds of different dinosaur kits and everything up on there that are just amazing. So make sure you check the links in the description. Go check out Lana Time Shop, but also grab yourself this beautiful PNSO Amargasaurus, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.